Hello there. The COVID-19 pandemic poses a pressing challenge to our global food systems. As such, the global community seems to be under pressure to act and ensure that the health challenge does not transform into poverty and hunger crisis. Food security is a measure of the availability of food and individuals' ability to access it. In fact, affordability is a key word here because access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food form part of basic human needs. However, it is heartwarming to note that in Nigeria, concerned authorities are already working round the clock in this regard. Today, we will interrogate the food security strategy of the federal government with a focus on dry season harvest and commencement of wet season farming. We shall also examine the issues of banditry and farming activities, recent research and innovations in food production, as well as food storage, plus patronage of locally produced food items. Welcome to Weekend File. I am Kenan Ima Abodike. First, we'll bring you the news. The presidency says there is no any rift between President Muhammadu Buhari and APC national leader Bola Ahmed Tinubu. A statement from the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, says the very essence of the requests put to the Emergency National Executive Committee meeting of the All Progressive Congress APC by President Muhammadu Buhari, which were unanimously approved, aim to pull back the party faced with an existential crisis from the brink of collapse, follow the constitution and take everyone along. The statement said decisions taken at the meeting were generally applauded and chided those who ran commentary of Buhari-Tinubu showdown. President Buhari and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who are reckoned as the founding fathers of the APC, are both inspired by democratic norms, national interests, and not at all by partisan motivations, the statement says. Both leaders, it says, are in touch with their relationship, as strong as ever, and trying as hard as they could to improve the well-being of Nigerians. The intervention, the statement explains, is to lead to massive, or rather massively reform and overhaul of the party as it strives to uphold democratic norms and good governance. APC chieftain Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has commended the intervention of President Muhammadu Buhari in the crisis of the All Progressives Congress and accepts the dissolution of the National Working Committee.
APC chieftain says even in the best of times, Nigeria is beset by a myriad of challenges like poverty, economic inequality, insecurity, and lack of infrastructure that are long-standing obstacles that have blocked access to national greatness for too long. He said now is a time for the country to work towards solving the challenges, including the ones posed by the COVID-19. Not time for politicians to wrestle for position. Ahmed Bola Tinubu said he had hoped that the disagreements could be resolved politically by the leaders, but it failed to materialize, as order, party discipline and mutual respect were not respected. Bola Tinubu said President Buhari is not only a beneficiary of the party, but a founding member who has done what is right with his intervention. He said the president has spoken and his decision has been accepted. It is now beholden on all, as members of the APC, to recommit themselves to the ideals and principles on which the party was founded. Bola Tinubu noted that while people have personal ambitions, those ambitions are secondary, not sacrosanct. As such, members must subordinate their ambitions to health and well-being of the party and not one or group of people's interests. He urged all former members of the National Working Committee and all members of the party to sheath their swords and look to the larger picture. He advised that attention should return to the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states, while the caretaker committee prepares for a mini national convention within 6 months. On the insinuation that the president's intervention has ended his purported 2023 ambitions, Bola Tinubu said he is only concerned with helping his party to solve the extenuating moment with COVID-19 and its economic fallout, and that he has made no decision regarding 2023. The APC national leader said personally he finds greater merit trying to help in the present by offering policy ideas, both privately and publicly, where he thinks they might help, and will continue in the same mode for the immediate future. He ended by pledging to continue making.
In the meantime, immediate past national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, says he has accepted the decision of the National Executive Committee to dissolve the National Working Committee, which he chaired from June 23, 2018 until 25 June 2020. It is close days while addressing journalists in Abuja. The former APC national chairman acknowledged his contributions to the Progressives family, particularly the victory it recorded during the 2019 general elections. As a loyal member of the APC and in line with the decisions during the last National Executive Committee meeting, Oshiomhole said he has instructed his lawyers to withdraw his case earlier intended to challenge his suspension at the Supreme Court.
I am not going into the issue of legality or illegality. The bottom line is the president who invited me to lead the party and who gave me all the support and who mobilized all the support across the country for my emergence as chairman also presided over the meeting where the NWC has now been dissolved. And because I have always assured the president of my loyalty, so as a demonstration of that loyalty to Mr. President, loyalty to our party, and loyalty to the Nigerian nation, I have decided to accept the decision in good faith and to maintain my loyalty, my respect, and my admiration for President Muhammadu Buhari. To sustain the legal action will tantamount to disobeying one of the decisions that the President has reached, namely that all cases be withdrawn from court. I still believe that even as a member of APC, I have a duty to lead by example.
Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, former national chairman of the All Progressives Congress there. Still talking politics, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has presented a certificate of return to Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State, having emerged as the party's candidate in the September 2020 governorship election. Timothy Yusuf reports on the event held at the National Secretariat of the party here in Abuja.
This presentation of certificate of return and INEC nomination form to Governor Godwin Obaseki followed the presentation and adoption of the June 25, 2020 primary election report by the chairman of the Electoral Committee, Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State.
That for the first time in Edo, we have a rancor-free election.
Governor Obaseki, accompanied by two of the aspirants who stepped down for him, also announced his deputy, Philip Shaibu, as his running mate in the forthcoming election.
I have no reason to doubt that victory is going to be ours on September 19th.
I'm here to say that he has my support and my approval.
PDP chairman Uche Secondus promised the party's support towards the conduct of a peaceful election.
We must put the interests of the people first, before our personal interests.
The PDP also assured of a peaceful primary election in Ondo State. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NT News.
We now go to aviation, where 3 months after flight operations were suspended to contain the spread of coronavirus, a test flight departed Abuja Airport to Lagos this Saturday, involving members of the Presidential Task Force expected to evaluate preparation for flight resumption. New airport protocols, which include the application of robotic profiling expected to process passengers, formed parts of what the passengers will have to adjust to when flight operations resume. Aviation correspondent Emmanuel Ayemiro reports.
The simulation exercise is what passengers are expected to go through when flight resume. Members of the PTF and journalists formed the crowd subjected to all the guidelines irrespective of status. Apart from the floor and seat markings intended to reduce physical contact, the robotic machines being deployed are expected to disinfect the airport identify unwanted objects, and many more.
Many functions as possible it can perform, and what we are trying to do is to map up and encode all the functions we want to perform, so we can break it down for check-in area, boarding area, security area. All those things can be broken down.
The scare was that they might not be ready, but with what we've seen, everything is in place.
You could see also the chairs are reduced to 250 in this hall. It used to be 500, but this can take only maybe two flights, local flights. So we know how to stagger them to ensure that the place is not crowded.
By the time the airport reopens, domestic passengers will be required to be at the airport 3 hours before departure, as well as 5 hours for international passengers to enable them observe the new airport protocols. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
All intending air passengers will now be mandated to observe strict measures when domestic operations resume at some designated airports in the country. Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika laid down the rules when he led members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to the domestic terminal of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos on simulation of commercial flight operations. Here is Dotun Ogunyemi with that report.
This simulation exercise from flight arrival, ticketing and boarding of passengers was to demonstrate the readiness of civil aviation authorities to resume seamless operations with strict mandate on enforcement of the set-down safety rules. These rules are ranging from arrival at airport 3 hours before all domestic flights take off, compulsory use of face mask, compliance with 1.5 meters physical distancing rule while standing, waiting or sitting, among all necessary protocols.
And I can assure you that we've gone very, very far. We are almost ready to begin. Almost ready to begin. That aspect has scored, I think, in excess of 90%. The airports also, especially Lagos, Abuja, Port Kano, and a few others, are at that level. We're sure that we're in excess of 80% to 90%.
Aviation is a highly regulated sector, and it's one of the reasons why we wanted aviation to go first in terms of preparing the country for what is going to be the new normal.
People must take these responsibilities and comply. So the issue of compliance is very, very critical.
Air operators and other businesses have largely borne the brunt of grounded operations at the airports for several months. They are showing commitment to enforcement of laid-down regulations as government finalizes plans on cost implications.
So the airlines have got a lot of work to do to educate the passengers.
The members of the PTF also used the opportunity to passionately appeal to Nigerians to be self-disciplined and obey all safety protocols to reduce the spread of the virus. In Lagos, Dotun Ogunyemi, NTA News.
European Union sets to exclude travelers from 3 countries due to coronavirus as World Health Organization targets end of 2021. Here is Adebola Bruskless Sunday with more on Global Update.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has tested 125,090 samples of COVID-19. Out of this number, 23,298 samples were positive. So far, 554 fatalities and 8,252 recoveries have been recorded, leaving the nation with 14,491 active cases. And the Africa Center for Disease Control has also reported 359,408 cases, 9,283 deaths, and 173,057 recoveries on the continent. On the COVID-19 dashboard of World Ometer at about 7 p.m. local time, 10,051 persons have been infected with coronavirus globally. 498,952 deaths confirmed, while 5,414,646 people have recovered. The World Health Organization has concluded plans to deliver 2 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccine to the world by the end of 2021.
It's clear that because all people are at risk of COVID-19, all people should have access to all the tools to prevent, detect, and treat it, not only those who can afford to pay for them.
And the European Union is set to exclude travelers from the United States, Brazil, and Russia when the bloc reopens its borders to outsiders on July 1. Diplomats cited the uncontrolled transmission of the new coronavirus in the three countries.
Eight staffers of the Federal Medical Center Idiaba, Abeokuta, have tested positive for the coronavirus. The affected staff are medical doctors, nurses, and an administration staff. They were part of the team which had contact with a 2.5-year-old coronavirus positive toddler currently receiving treatment at the center's isolation ward. A statement from the hospital management signed by the head public relations and information, Shego Orishajo, said the COVID-19 positive status of the affected staff was detected during a world round of contact tracing carried out by the hospital infection control team. Although none of the affected staff is symptomatic, the medical director, Professor Adewale Musa Olomu, has directed them to proceed on self-isolation and basic treatment commenced for them. The medical director wishes and prays for the quick recovery of the staff, even as he expresses confidence that they will soon return to their duty posts. Let's now go to security matters, where the Air Task Force ATF of Operation Lafia Dole, under the subsidiary Operation Long Range, has destroyed a logistics base of Boko Haram terrorists, killing scores of their fighters. This was in another successful air interdiction missions carried out on 25 June 2020 at Tongule and Boko Haram in Borno State, after a series of surveillance missions indicated a resurgence of terrorist activities at the two settlements. At Tongule, credible intelligence indicated a frequent convergence of BHTS, where about 35 terrorists were spotted by the NAF surveillance aircraft in different parts of the settlement. At Boko Haram, a BHT logistics hub on the fringes of the Lake Chad, the air strikes destroyed portions of the terrorist facilities, injured several of their fighters, and also killed many in the process. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, commends the ATF for their dedication and professionalism. The Defense Headquarters equally urges them to intensify the air offensive against the terrorists and all other criminal elements threatening the peace and security of our beloved country. Now, the federal government has commenced the rehabilitation of Kara Bridge along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The repairs became necessary owing to the exposure of the bridge to frequent mishaps, especially the recent fire outbreak caused by multiple articulated vehicles accidents on the bridge. Imolayo Tokede has the report.
This is what is left of the Kara Bridge after the fire incident. The pavements and parapets were burnt, causing damage to the bridge. This integrity test by the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing is to identify damages and carry out requisite repairs.
It's a proactive step, really. We are just starting to mill. The procedure of the test is to mill off. After milling off the asphalt, what is remaining of the burnt portion, then we will test. The contractors will test, and then after the result, it's the result that will determine the next step.
although the Ibadan-bound lanes have been narrowed down to 2 from 3. FRC officials are monitoring the traffic to prevent gridlock.
The men are already deployed with all the necessary cones and equipment to protect the operators that are doing the integrity test and to also protect travelers, those that are on transit, so that there will not be crashes in the course of trying to manage the 2 lanes we have.
The repairs will be carried out for 2 days. In Lagos, Imoli Ayotokede, NTN News.
Let's talk economy now. The sustainability of national economic growth and human development, or rather capital development, can thrive on the provision of an enabling environment for micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs. As the world marks this year's MSME Day, economic analysts have stressed the need for access to loans at single-digit rate for micro and small businesses in the country. Abolade Salami completes the report.
Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN, indicates that macro, small and medium-scale enterprises account for 84% of jobs, with about 48.5% contribution to the nation's gross domestic products, as well as about 7.27% of goods and services exported out of the country. The sector's huge contribution to nations' economies cannot be quantified, most especially in developing nations.
So to this extent, it's a very critical aspect of the economy, because if anything impacts on this sector to a large extent, the Nigerian economy will feel the shock.
Described as the backbone of most economies, the sector is confronted with the challenge of access to capital, which serves as its primary obstacle, as well as the lack of main social amenities like power.
Many of these MSMEs need to step up in terms of record keeping and having the requirements for any lender to want to lend out money to them. Even if it is coming from the government also wants a level of comfort that whatever is given out will eventually be returned.
At the wake of the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria, the sector has been seriously hit due to its size and volume of daily operations, resulting in many being pushed out of business, while others are struggling to sustain operations.
It has really gone down, 70% down.
The federal government, through its programs, policies and initiatives, evident on some financial platforms, has made available financial assistance to the sector to ensure continuous growth and survival.
I know the CBN has made pronouncements in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic to help small businesses, if possible, set out a commission to handle that, and also look at how to create an arrangement that will make it easier for MSMEs to access funds.
As operators celebrate the International Day when the global community is contending with the coronavirus pandemic and business owners struggle to adapt to the new normal, they are advocating improvement in infrastructure, finance and assistance in value chain to unlock the potentials of MSMEs. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
In the meantime, 27th June is marked as United Nations Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day, a day set aside by the UN General Assembly to recognize the importance of improving small businesses' development all over the world and to increase awareness and actions to support small businesses. The Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda. Stakeholders recognize the importance of micro, small and medium enterprises, SMEs, and call for action to improve their access to finance, value chains and market. In attendance at a virtual meeting held to mark the day were Dr. Hajo Sani, SSAP on Administration and Women Affairs, the UN Women Country Representative, Ms. Comfort Lamte, a former Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Ayom Josephine Aneni, MNI, President Nasima Hajia Saratuia, Managing Director, SME NG, Ms. Thelma Ikiyo, Director General Nasima, Ambassador Ayola, President NCWS, Dr. Laraba Shoda, MNI, amongst a host of civil society organizations and many women-led businesses. Food security is subject matter that concerns all, especially in this era of COVID-19. So discussing it is quite timely, but that will be after the break.
I wish to once again commend the frontline workers across the country who, on a daily basis, risk everything to ensure we win this fight. For those who got infected in the line of duty, rest assured that government will do all it takes to support you and your families during this exceedingly difficult period. I will also take this opportunity to assure you all that your safety, well-being, and welfare remains paramount to our government. I am using this opportunity to express our deepest condolences to the families of all Nigerians that have lost their loved ones as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is our collective loss, and we share your grief.
You see, as I talk to you plenty now, because I get glow too, that make me talk. Please, I be not be so. All right. Not be say I won't talk plenty. Una no say I not dey lie. You see this glow? If you get them, una no go even una go just they talk, they go because it is not there.
Enjoy international calls from as low as 40 kobo per second from Nigeria to the world. Call your loved ones today.
Thank you, my sister. You do well, eh?
Glow Unlimited.
I will still stand. I will still stand on the day that I finally wear my colors of pride, when the most prolific stars rise to look adversaries in the eye, putting them in their place. When the Spanish Armada sets sail once again to take over the rough seas, the moment of excellent surprises, remarkable magic, unshakable dominance. Yes, I will still stand. When my passion melts away all the uncertainties, when I get reacquainted with my heroes, I will still stand. Get ready for the return of live sports only on GoTV. Stay connected or reconnect to GoTV, and we will give you an upgrade to the next package. GoTV. Live it, love it.
Wetin be this coronavirus thing? Now true?
You see this coronavirus, will be COVID-19. Now the whole world palava, and it don't they kill many people for China, Italy, UK, US, Spain, and even for other countries them.
Okay, wetin come be the reason why they say make everybody tanda for house?
Now because if they waka pium go carry them from person we don't get them, you go carry come give your family them. Now so the thing take they kill other people for other countries.
Okay, wetin come be that social distancing self?
You see social distance. Now make we no come close because this thing now from air and touch now we dey contact them. We suppose they at least 6 foot away from each other every time.
So okay, no be only to wash your hand and to sanitize them alone.
Make we not take this washing of hand thing take play, but make we come together, join hand as we take pursue Ebola, pursue this coronavirus. Make we be each other be keepers now.
We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Shegun. Alpha, say tomorrow still day on.
What's your tomorrow?
Community meeting now.
You know they hear Abi?
Now beggy. See, if we meet for my house, inside parlor, then go no. This COVID-19 is not a child's play. If you want to elect a new secretary, we fit to do one for WhatsApp, or for Skype, or even on Zoom. Or we just wait. I will not negotiate this social distancing. It is not negotiable.
Not every infected person shows symptoms, but every infected person is contagious. Avoid large gatherings and self-isolate if you think you might have come in contact with a carrier. Your safety and the safety of others is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Thank you for staying tuned to Weekend File on the NTA. Farmers in Kano State are leveraging on the federal government's various intervention programs to embrace all year-round farming activities to produce enough food for local consumption. This has placed farmers in Kano on a strategic position as they put sizable percentage of arable land into cultivation. Yahanasu Hassan Barau reports that despite COVID-19, farmers are hopeful of bumper harvest.
Nigeria, with a projected population of more than 200 million, has been among the African countries that depend largely on importation of food for consumption. Years back, the country has spent billions of dollars on importation of agricultural commodities that can be produced in the country. To change the narrative, the present administration came up with policies and programs aimed at assisting farmers to ensure food sufficiency. For instance, Kano farmers harvested tons of rice and maize in 2020 dry season farming alone. The 2020 wet season farming is not an exception, as farmers are provided with quality seeds that will suit this year's prediction.
The pandemic aside, there's been prediction of bad weather this year. So there's been some bad prediction earlier. So coupled with this pandemic, so it means this 2020 is actually 12 years for farmer.
Mustafa Tijani is one of the wet season farmers who has already planted his seeds.
The government has been making call for us to go back to the farm, and we thank God that we now have value for what we produce.
Many farmers share Mustafa's opinion, but however challenged with the problem of late arrival of fertilizer, which they say can depress their efficiency. Even with the coronavirus pandemic, hopes are high among farmers in Kano, like Mustafa is optimistic of bumper harvests. In Kano, Johannes Hassanbaro, NTA News.
In the meantime, measures have been put in place by the federal government through technological storage for quality food preservation to avert post-COVID-19 loss of food crops. Kayode Oladosu in this report takes a look at recent developments on research and innovation in storage of food items.
The shift from traditional method of preservation of food items is now a modification of technological-based research, which provides good range of food production at the post-harvest season by the farmers. In the past, substantial amount of food items are being damaged after harvest due to lack of adequate storage facilities. Experts say this current method of storage will put an end to the trend.
We have done a lot of research here to see that we extend the shelf life of our food through processing and also through keeping them in the appropriate temperature.
We are shying away from the use of chemicals because of the associated problems with chemicals. You know, some of them may be carcinogenic or mutagenic in nature. So we are making use of natural preservatives from plants. That is what we are using most of the time.
To the farmers, what are the benefits available with the new innovation?
It's a very good welcome idea for we peasant farmers, which third party normally have all the profit on our produce. But the silo has to be situated where it will be very accessible to our farmers.
Taking a look at this technical idea and the role that agricultural produce play on the economic structure of any country. The basic value in this research will boost food production and adequate supply of food items during the post-harvest period in Ibadan. Kayodola Adoshu, NTA News.
Joining us to discuss on the food security strategy by the federal government is Professor Ibrahim Umar Abubakar, a former national president, Agricultural Society of Nigeria. Professor Abubakar, thank you for joining us tonight on Weekend File. All right, looking at COVID-19 and food demand and supply, is Nigeria under the threat of food insecurity?
Well, for now, there is no threat of food security, but there are indications that if measures are not properly taken, there could be insecurity in the country. First and foremost, initially there is this fear of COVID-19, which made farmers not to go to the farm. And now there is a real security challenge, particularly in the grain producing centers. We have security challenge in Zamfara, in Sokoto, in Kebbi, some parts of Kano, Kaduna, Niger. And these states are the grain producing centers of the country. These states produce maize, rice, sorghum, millet, which are the staple food, and they are indeed the food security staple of this country. So with this, I believe we have fear, a lot of fear. Personally, I fear a lot for this country. But there is still hope if government takes certain measures. First and foremost, we know with the insecurity, the area put to production will be reduced. In that case, we have to look at other alternatives. If area is reduced, what do? We have to increase the yield per hectare. And increasing the yield per hectare means proper use of high-yielding varieties, improved varieties, use of proper agronomy, and how do we achieve high yield? That means the government now will have to support farmers, and support farmers indeed. The government will really have to provide farmers with improved varieties of seed. They will have to provide farmers with fertilizers. They have to provide farmers with extension. I mean extension through radio, through television. Farmers will have to be educated. There has to be communication to farmers on how to produce these crops, the best method, the best agronomy for the production of these crops. That means government will have to intensify extension through radio, through television, and various other means of extension, through farmer field school, through visit to farmers. In fact, emergency experts have to be assembled so that they go and meet these farmers in their fields and teach them the best method so that they can improve their yield. And also, as I heard during your review, another thing is storage. Because by the time farmers are able to produce, they have to store them properly. Research has shown that post-harvest losses can rise as high as 30% or more. That means farmer can produce 10 bags, and at the end of the day, he ends up with seven bags. So if laws of extension and teaching and communication has to be done to ensure that farmers are really provided with what it needs to produce high yield, because the area will certainly reduce.
Okay, you've actually gone into other areas that we know that the government is also doing a lot to ensure that there is security where these agricultural activities take place. When you look at the bandits and the rest of them, the government is winning the war as we speak. But let's talk about what is happening now. Coronavirus or COVID-19 is also here. So to what extent do you think that agriculture will play a role to ensure that food security is indeed ensured?
I actually, the fear of coronavirus has subsided. Farmers are now going to the field. So as far as I'm concerned, the effect of coronavirus on agriculture and food security for now is not an issue, because government has provided lots and lots of measures and palliatives to farmers. And farmers have taken this call because it is national matter. Food security is very important. Like I said on several occasions, food security sometimes is even better than defense security, because even soldiers march on their food, on their stomach. A soldier cannot go to the bottle on an empty stomach. That means food security is very, very important. And I'm happy that government has listened to many of our calls, and it has given a lot of support to farmers, but they should give more support, more and more support, so that we can survive the effect of COVID-19, and we can also survive the effect of banditry and so on.
All right, Professor Ibrahim Umar Abubakar is still very much around with us, but let's quickly go for a break on Weekend File. When we return, we'll continue this discussion with the professor.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
A united Nigeria,
strong in the fight
against COVID-19, to bring a voice of hope, to join hands to bring an end to this pandemic.
Kandi diko hafia si akwado agha n'otu aka ahụ ka ndị nwere ikike ịhụ maka ahụike si dịkwa nkwadebe maka ọgụ a.
Ní ayé àtijọ́, a farapamọ́ lábẹ́ àpáta Olúmọ, a sì borí ogun náà. Àkókò tó láti farapamọ́ sínú ilé.
Mu ci gaba da kaɗaita juna, kuma mu kiyaye wuraren da akwai cunkoson mutane.
Mukumulo biba bizinko lokachile.
Womere ya mevogja wogura bowe kokekokyo, woje serigi sanitizer wogura bowe.
Fulbe ballen ko emeden kauten jude kaben dun nyaw coronavirus. Daroden e wuro ballen gomnati ballen ko emeden dun nyaw dun waray dun dillay.
One Nigeria, different languages, and we shall surely prevail.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibilities in partnership with Nigerian Television Authority. You can't beat the rich.
Welcome back. The efforts of the federal government through its various interventions in the rice value chain is responsible for the high quality of rice produced by today's farmers. This explains the increase in its acceptance and patronage. Chika Okorie has the details.
The food security strategy of the federal government in the area of rice production is responsible for the positive impact on the demand and supply curve. In Ebonyi State, the previous target of contributing 10% of the nation's consumption need of 6 million metric tons per annum has shifted to 1 million as a result of increase in demand of locally produced rice.
In terms of processing capacity, apart from the Abakaliki rice mill, the state government have set up 3 gigantic rice processing factories, and these factories are producing about 5 metric tons per hour. Put together, that's about 120 metric tons on daily basis.
The restriction order on rice importation, no doubt, has encouraged local consumption, thereby making the venture more profitable.
If we have mechanized farm, then it may now make some profit, but for now, profit is very, very marginal.
If we're able to have a sound marketing system, whereby even the government and NGOs are ready to buy in bulk from the farmers.
Also, government policies and investment in local rice production in Enugu State have led to increased patronage of the staple food. A visit to markets in the metropolis show that the Ada rice in Oso-Unwani local government area of the state had flooded the markets and beyond. The high patronage is responsible for the substantial increase in agricultural output, as over 60% of rural dwellers in the state have gone into farming. Chika Okore.
All right, let's return to our discussion with Professor Ibrahim Umaru Abubakar, who is in Kaduna as we speak. Professor Abubakar, we are aware that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is planning to introduce tractor hiring scheme for small-scale farmers. Now, what is your view on that?
That is a very excellent initiative. There was a time I had a program with the Honorable Minister of Agriculture on NTA. I remarked then that this is an excellent program, but my fear then was, you know, this scheme is going to be private sector driven, and you know, most of the farmers in Nigeria are small-scale holders who are also poor, resource-poor farmers. As a result of that, the access to these services could be a problem. What they need, because of the small sizes of their farms, are small hand implements. You know, we have small tillers, power tillers. We also have planters that you can pull them with hand. There is ox-drawn plows and harrows and so on. But for mechanized farmers, this is good news, because for agriculture to be mechanized, there has to be implements from land preparation all through to harvest. That means tractor for making plows and harrows, tractor for making ridges, for planting, for application of herbicides and other insecticides, and also harvesters. This is good news, because this is what is lacking. But there should also be provision for the small-scale farmers who constitute the bulk of Nigerian farmers. Yeah.
All right, Professor Abubakar, what about extension services in our country here? Are we meeting the global standard of 1 to 800 farmers?
We are not. This is one of the weakest link to agricultural production in Nigeria, extension. Extension in Nigeria is very, very poor, because there has been attrition of extension staff, either through, which are mostly in the agricultural development projects, either through retirement, through death, through resignation of service, and so on and so forth. This attrition has remarkably affected the service, extension services across the country. There is virtually no extension in Nigeria today, except for what the National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Services is doing, which is the Farmers Helpline
that is able to contact farmers through telephone and so on. But for now, extension is very poor, and that is what is responsible for the low agricultural production in this country. We need to do a lot to improve extension for us to reach the promised land. For now, agricultural production has to, extension has to be aggressively. I learned the Federal Minister of Agriculture, through the minister, has constituted a committee that has already submitted a report on how to revitalize extension in this country. This is a step in the right direction because as it is today, extension is very poor, and this is accounting for the poor production in this country, poor agricultural production.
Right, let's quickly talk about provision of efficient input for our farmers. How accessible are such farming inputs nowadays?
Farming inputs, particularly improved seeds, fertilizers, particularly improved seeds and fertilizers, are catalysts to production. You cannot have increased agricultural production without the use of improved seeds, hybrid seeds and others, and also fertilizers. For now, government has made efforts and also has reduced the cost of fertilizers. But unfortunately, fertilizers are not available. There is today scarcity of fertilizer. I discussed with some farmers today before coming to this studio. There is an NPK 1515 which is produced by Golden. Today, this fertilizer, a bag of that fertilizer costs 17,500. There is also an NPK that is produced by OPC. It is almost 15,000 naira a bag. This is unacceptable. There is no way a farmer can make any meaningful production and make profit with this high cost of fertilizer. I am sure the government is making lots and lots of effort to make fertilizer available to farmers, but the effort should be increased because agriculture is the backbone of Nigerian economy. We cannot play with agriculture.
Much, Professor Ibrahim Umar Abubakar. Thanks for your time tonight on Weekend File. All right, we've been talking with Professor Ibrahim Umar Abubakar, the former national president, Agricultural Society of Nigeria. Of course, you're watching Weekend File. We go for another break. Do stay with us.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
25th February 2020, Nigeria. It is real. It is a nightmare. It is killing people all over the world. It is COVID-19. Compliance with the various states in Nigeria, the current measures will flatten the curves. Shutting down is not an act of wickedness, but an act to save lives. Stay home, stay safe. Observe social distance. Always put on a face mask while leaving your house. Make sure you are on a tricycle alone. Cars and buses cannot carry more than half their passengers. Always remember to wash your hands. Together, we will defeat COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibilities.
Welcome back. Sport is next on Weekend File.